Today, we see South Korea as a modernized nation with multiple well-known companies like Samsung, LG, and Hyundai, while we see North Korea as a poor, isolated country. Little do people know that South Korea was worse off than their northern counterpart more than half a century ago. The GDP per capita of South Korea in 1961 was the lowest of all the countries in the United Nations at just $72, while the North had a lot of military and economic aid from China and the Soviet Union. It is a mystery to some on how South Korea went from a war-torn backwards country to the regional power today. This work was sparked from one man's leadership who helped form the basis of South Korea's rapid modernization. His name was Park Chung Hee. Park Chung Hee was born on November 14, 1917 in Gumi, Korea when it was under Japanese rule, to a poor rural family and the youngest of 7 children. Park lived in poverty, with his childhood home's roof being made out of apple box pieces, and inside had an entrance to the kitchen having a straw mat instead of a door. Park had to walk 5 miles each day to elementary school and always got hungry when he came home, but there was not much to eat, and this is why he ended up being really short at 5 foot 2 inches. Due to his exceptional grades in primary school, he was accepted at Taegu Secondary School that teaches elementary school teachers. It was here that he got military training by the Japanese military in order to make teachers to be strong mentally and physically. Poverty later made him not perform his best at the school, graduating second to last in his class of 60. Even though he didn't perform well compared to others, he was still assigned to be a teacher in Mukhyang Elementary School, where he saw a lot of students suffer from poverty like when he was their age. Not seeing much of an opportunity, he entered the Manchukuo Military Academy in March 1940. Manchukuo was a Japanese puppet state with the modern borders of Manchuria, led by the last Chinese emperor, Puyi. Park's goal was to become an army general. He became a top cadet in the Manchukuo Military Academy, receiving a gold watch from Puyi himself and getting 2 years of training in Japan. Park eventually became a platoon commander before Japan was defeated. After Korea was free from Japanese rule, it was split into two because of the Soviets invading Manchuria and parts of Korea during the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because of Park's experience in the military, he rose rapidly in the Korean military hierarchy. The Korean War killed millions of Koreans, showing that it took less than 5 years for ethnic brothers to fight against one another. During the 1950s, after the war, South Korea was barely recovering from the Korean War. In 1960, Syngman Rhee, the first and longtime president of South Korea, was removed from power from a student demonstration. Just a year later, Park initiated a coup d'etat that removed the still corrupt government. Park received doubts from the United States government. John F. Kennedy massively decreased aid for South Korea. Douglas MacArthur, who was a U.S. general in the Pacific Theater of World War II, stated, "This country has no future. This country will not be restored, even after 100 years." Reflecting on this, Park had to find a way for his country without natural resources to rapidly modernize in order to defend themselves against a North Korean invasion and make conditions for its citizens a lot better. Park divided Korea's economic plans into 5-year phases. However, not much could be done since the government alone could not achieve the goals of the economic plans. West Germany, however, was able to send 140 million marks to South Korea in exchange for a needed workforce of nurses and miners. These workers helped South Korea spark their modernization. In 1965, Park normalized diplomatic relations with Japan, allowing millions of dollars of investments and allowed Japan to have a market of cheap South Korean goods. Park also sent over 300,000 soldiers to fight in the Vietnam War, which helped the country receive billions of dollars in grants, loans, and subsidies from the U.S. government. By 1967, South Korea was maintaining rapid economic growth. Park started the construction of a highway connecting Seoul to the southern seaport in Busan. Also, water processing plants, railroads, power plants, hydroelectric dams, and basic industries. With the American aid, the Korean Army rearmed itself with modern weaponry. Korean soldiers in the Vietnam War were paid by the American government, which brought extra income back home. Park started the New Village movement to clear the debt of farmers and fishermen and modernize the countryside. He helped replace back-breaking labor with modern agricultural machinery. This helped increase productivity and the standard of living. Park invested heavily into steel and shipbuilding and chemical industries. From this, South Korea went from a heavily agricultural economy to a more diverse industrialized economy. He made South Korea turn into an export-oriented dynamo by guiding the direction of familiar companies. The automobile industry thrived due to South Korea's relatively cheap labor at the time. The GDP per capita went from $72 in 1961 to $1,857 in 1979. Through his 15-year presidency, he dealt with multiple assassination attempts influenced by the North Korean government. In the Blue House raid, a group of 31 commandos dressed as South Korean soldiers were sent by the North to kill Park Chung Hee. It failed and only 2 survived. The only one captured by the South later got married, became a pastor, and a South Korean citizen in 1970. He said that he came to know that Kim Il-sung wanted Park Chung Hee killed because he was afraid of a poor country becoming rich. Also, as South Korea's economy improved, he believed it would secure more money for weapons. In 1974, a Korean raised in Japan with North Korean ties attempted to assassinate Park during a speech, but missed and ended up killing Park's wife, Yuk Young-soo. This greatly affected Park, and after this, made his eldest daughter assume the role of First Lady. In 1979, Park Chung Hee was successfully assassinated in a power struggle with his associates. Today, we commonly see TVs, smartphones, and tablets made by Samsung, and cars driving on the road made by Hyundai. It can be clearly seen on how Park helped these companies gain worldwide status, and this is how Park Chung Hee's strong leadership benefited his countrymen and affected our world.